Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are enjoying your night. It's Friday, July 12th, and I hope everyone's getting ready for the weekend. Hope you guys got a lot of plans, and I hope everybody enjoys it. Coming back with another video, and in this video, I kind of want to talk to everybody a little bit more about the willingness to think differently. I want to kind of go in depth about what it means, at least what it means to me, what it may mean to you. And there's a blog, at least for me, that I found that kind of got my mind started, or got me trying to understand about what it means to think different. And where this all came from, if you guys saw my original video, was from this whole idea started with me from the man who told me everything that I know today, and that's Ed Ingles. And I spoke about him in the very first video that I created. This is video number 2. And you know, Ed Ingles is, like I said, he's the man who changed my life. He's the man that I guess I could say that I owe him. You know, I dedicate everything that I learn and everything that I achieve from here on out, I dedicate to him, because he's the one who opened my mind and made me think differently. And like I said, I feel like thinking differently has a big meaning here, and it means a lot when it comes to trying to break your mind away from being an employee, which is what most of us are, which is what I used to be, to eventually becoming financially free and making money on your terms, making money without the use of going to an employer and doing what they tell you to do and generate money that way. So I found a blog that talks about the willingness to think differently, and I'm going to kind of go through this word for word and explain to you what I think it means. I will also link this blog so you can read it yourself if you want to. And I'm not promoting this guy in any way. It's literally something I found off the internet on my own, and you know, I want everybody to kind of think about this, what it means, how it may, pertain to your current situation, how it may help you, or maybe even just help, spark something in your mind to make you think a little bit differently so you can make better choices for your life, as opposed to, just working a job or doing the, traditional way of creating money for yourself. Because the idea here, the whole philosophy, again, that I want to go by is, in order to be different, you need to think differently. So you need to think different to be different, okay? If you don't do anything in your life to change what you do to, become something more, you'll always just be the same person. Nothing will ever change. The great Einstein, there's a quote by him, if you guys want to go look it up. I'm sure some of you maybe heard this before. And Ed has actually said this to me one time, is that, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different outcome. So what does that mean? If you work, for example, if you work at a job all the time, one of the jobs that I worked at the longest was Hardy Diagnostics, and don't get me wrong, I love the job. It was a great job. It paid decently compared to the majority of the jobs that I made more money there per hour than I did at any other job. So it told me, that it was the best job for me at the time. So, when you just work a job hourly, you don't learn anything from it. You don't understand that there's more money to be made, on your own terms. So when you're just at a job, you just make money hourly, and that's it. So anyway, I want to kind of go over the willingness to think differently and what that means to me. So again, like I said, I will link this blog here for you guys, so all of you can kind of reference off of it. But I'm going to go through. I'm going to read it to you, and kind of stop every now and then and explain key points that I think are important about thinking differently. And like I said, if you learn to think different, you will change something in your life. You won't always be the same. So I think it's very important. So anyway, uh, this blog is called "The Willingness to Think Differently." You know exactly what I'm talking about, and the post is written by author Leo Babauta. Okay, so here's what he says: I can summarize the most successful people I've ever known with one trait: the willingness to challenge mainstream ideas. This has been the key to everything good in my life too. I changed my health and drastically reduced my carbon footprint when I stopped eating like everyone else around me and became vegetarian and eventually vegan. So he's saying that he, you know, when he started going vegan, he started eating, you know, plants, vegetables, and stopped eating meat. And if you guys don't know, you know, when we consume meat, you know, it actually costs more water, more resources to create a pound of beef than it does to create a plant, to, you know, to eat vegetables or, you know, things like that. So he's saying that he reduces carbon footprint by, you know, reducing greenhouse gases. Cows produce a lot of greenhouse gases. If you guys have ever seen the video, or it's more of a documentary called Food Inc., I think is what it's called. It talks about cows in there, and you know, pretty much goes over that whole thing. So you can check it out if you want. And then he also said, I simplified my life when I stopped believing with what the majority of people believe, that buying stuff makes you happier, more secure, look better in the eyes of others, etc. So that, you know, basically means that, you know, when he stopped, you know, believing in purchasing things that make other people happy. In other words, don't give a damn what people think about you. Do what you want to do, buy the things that you want to do, and buy them for yourself. Don't buy them to make other people happy. Don't go out, you know, I mean, I guess this is a bad example, but don't go out and buy a nice car to show it off to people, but then you kind of do. But what I'm trying to say is buy that car to make yourself happy. Stop living your life for other people is basically what he's saying. So he moves on to saying, Ava and I improved our kids' learning environment when we went against the mainstream and started unschooling. I just learned about this recently, and I'll go over it briefly. I may make a video that talks about what unschooling is, but I will go over it briefly. Unschooling is the idea of taking your kids out of the normal, traditional way of going to school, like enrolling in a regular school around the corner of your house. Brigley Elementary, let's just say. You know, I'm taking my kid to Brigley Elementary. It's a normal school you just go to, you go over there, drop your kid off, blah, 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 right? Unschooling is the idea which is similar to homeschooling, but it's not homeschooling. Homeschooling is where you keep your kid at home and you teach them the same the same types of materials that you would normally learn at a regular school. Unschooling is different. Unschooling is where you can actually click on the link there. I'm reading it off my phone. I know you can't really see, it doesn't show up good, but you can actually click on the link there where he says that, where he and his wife Ava started unschooling his kids. You can click on unschooling to read more about it and what is it. But again, unschooling is where you keep your kids out of school, but it's different than homeschooling because you allow your kids to teach themselves. Instead of going to a homeschool or normal school and having a set daily tasks and things like that, and or I want to say curriculum in a way, like where you make them learn certain things that are based on what the government wants to teach your kids. You're basically taking them out of that and you're saying, hey, teach yourself what you want to learn. So you allow them to learn at their own pace. You allow them to learn what they want to learn, what's important in life. And just a quick little bit that I want to add that I will talk about more in another video is what I like about it is, you got to think about when you went to school, when you went to high school, middle school, whatever it is that you went to and you learned about school, right? What, out of all those things that you learned, can you recall even 75% of the shit that you learned when you went to school? Most people can't. I mean, at least not me. If you were, I didn't get very far in math, for example. I got as high as Algebra 1. And in Algebra 1, I can't remember half the shit I learned in that class. And if anything, aside from addition, subtraction, multiplication, things like that, what the hell else is important in daily life? I mean, you think, hexagons and all this shit is important. I mean, it's nice to know, but in daily life, for people who just go to work, if that's what the government wants you to do is just go to work, how the hell is any of that shit important for what you need to do with your job? I mean, if you plan to go to college and, learn about, become a mathematician and things like that, sure, going to Algebra 2, doing geometry, doing all these different things is great. But if you don't go that far, which I'm sure not everybody does, what's the point in going that? What's the point of learning it? So that's my point, is unschooling, in my understanding, allows your child to learn only what's important to them. So if they start to get older and they start to decide that, hey, I want to become a marine biologist, or I want to become a mechanical engineer, you start learning only what you want to learn or what is important to you based on the route that you plan to go. So it's very interesting. So again, I will probably make a video that will talk about unschooling some more, because I think it's really interesting. I think it's something that I may want to do with my child, or my children if I have more children at some point. I think it's something that is very interesting that I think, more people should probably think about. But again, the willingness to think differently. If you're not willing to think different, you're just going to go to a regular school just like everybody else, and we're all going to follow the same path and do the same thing. So, something to think about, okay? So, apologize, that was kind of long, but, it's interesting, okay? So he says again, we improved our health and reduced our carbon footprint when we went car-free. So he's basically saying he got rid of his car and, started taking, I believe when I read correctly, he started living in San Francisco with his family. So there's lots of, I forgot the word for it, but he takes like bus systems, subways. There's a lot of that there. Mass transit is the word, mass transit. So he takes a lot of that there because it's readily available. Does that pertain to everybody depending on where they live? Maybe not, but I do see what he's talking about when you get rid of your car and you start, maybe walking down the street and enjoying the flowers, things like that. Okay, that's great, right? Okay, so next thing he says, he changed his career by blogging differently than others, or simply simplifying rather than doing more when I started Zen Habits. That's what he says. And there are many more examples, but you get the point. This isn't a post about, or to brag about all of that. It's to share what I believe is the real key to life, the willingness to think differently than most people. It means you have to be willing to question what most people do and tell you. It means you have to have the courage to try something different. It means you have to be brave enough to stand out from the crowd and not take the safe route. What does that mean? Let's talk about the safe route. The safe route. Most people take the safe route because they're afraid of being different and failing. If you do nothing amazing, but you go with the crowd, then you don't look stupid, but you miss out on the amazing. What does that mean? It means that if you just go the traditional route that everybody else goes, like I said in my past video, we're thought of as cattle. If you ever watch National Geographic or you watch, deer or animals where they're running from the lions and shit in Africa, right? They're all running the same direction and they're all following each other. None of them do this. Majority of them don't do that because they're afraid to separate from the pack, which I understand. If you're an animal, you want to stay together because you feel safe. They're safer in packs than they are separating. But every now and then you'll see those ones that kind of veer off, right? But in life, in human life, most of us do that. We stay all on the same path. We all go to school, we all go to college. Parents tell you to do the same thing. All your family tells you to do the same thing. But nobody wants to be different. Why? Why does nobody want to be different? Why does everybody choose to be the same? So, that's what he's talking about here when he says that most people don't want to be different because they're afraid to fail. Why are you afraid to fail? There's probably something that I'd like to reference here. If you guys ever, and I will reference this man way more in the future, if you guys ever get a chance to check out somebody who will teach you probably way more than I will ever teach you, go check out a man named Robert Kiyosaki. Okay? This man is, he's an author of a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He's extremely smart gentleman. And he will, like I said, he will teach you so much more than me. He will talk about those kind of things. So go check him out. Here we go. So if you never stand out from the crowd, you will always be average, and that's fine. But the people who stand out are the ones who make a mark, who innovate and who discover, who learn the freedom of exploration, and invention. Those are your entrepreneurs. Those are the people that veer off and become different than the average pack. Most people choose to take the same route. Some people choose to not take the safe route because they're not afraid to fail. They understand and learn to embrace making mistakes. And I actually forgot to mention that when I was talking about Robert Kiyosaki. That's where I was going with that whole idea of why I told you about him. Robert Kiyosaki explains that you cannot be afraid to make mistakes. Obviously, we all know that. When you make a mistake, you learn from it. That's how we learn. And if you stop for a moment and think, the reason why we understand things now is mainly because we've made a mistake, doing something. For example, let's see if I have anything here. Let's say you have a cup in your hand and you drop the cup and it breaks on the ground. What does that teach you? Well, hold on to your cup stronger next time so you don't drop your cup and break it. Now you got to buy another one, right? So it's kind of the same thing. You learn. In order to learn, you have to make a mistake. So when we're in school and we're at a job, why do you get written up for making a mistake? There was a time at my job at Hardy Diagnostics where, oh man, it was a terrible day. I remember everybody was stressed out. My manager was stressed out. It was, this was something that doesn't normally happen. We messed up a product that we make all the time. It's made all the time, every single week, multiple times a week. But yet it's a product that's very, very expensive to make. And when we messed it up, I was part of the problem who messed it up, and multiple, few of us who were a part of it, we all got written up for it. We all got reprimanded for a mistake. But when we made that mistake, what did it teach us? Better not do that again, right? But what I'm trying to say here is that you learn by your mistakes. I mean, it's pretty, like I said before, it's kind of cliche, but in normal society, people don't like to make mistakes. We don't like to be judged. We don't like to be, looked at differently for our mistakes. But if you think about it, the way you evolve, the way you become somebody better is by making mistakes. So when I make a mistake, when my girlfriend Lizette makes mistakes, when my son Jimmy makes mistakes, I would rather say, what did you learn? And they would say, okay, I learned this. I say, okay, now you know not to do that wrong the next time. So just don't make the mistake again. It's okay to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Just like to say, we're all human. So make a mistake, but as long as you make the mistake, learn from it. That's the key. Okay? So now he says, if you stand out when you apply for a job, you'll be more likely to be noticed. If you don't play it safe, they'll likely ignore you. So that's why they always say try to do something during an interview, where you stand out, where people kind of remember you. And I've interviewed people too, and when I think about that, I remembered the people who stood out. If you don't stand out and you play it safe, no one remembers you. And I remembered only people who did something during a particular interview that made themselves stand out. So when you do anything in life, even for people in business, let's say, people in business need to stand out. And the way to stand out is to create something that allows other people to remember who you are. Because if they remember you, they'll come back to you. Okay? So moving on. If you stand out when you start a business, like I said, people will be curious and check you out, just like I said. If you're just one of many businesses doing the same thing, why should others care about you? Why should they choose you? Those are great questions. They won't pick you as a person to go to if you don't do anything to stand out. So you always gotta stand out, okay? And yet most people play it safe in general. Most people go to school and then they go to college because that's what everyone does. They don't know what they really want to do, so why not take the traditional route? And that's fine, but it's good to look into other options. So it's like I kind of said earlier, most people choose to go to college. Most people choose to go to the traditional ways of learning and then eventually go and get a job. Now, I will create a video, and my next video coming up will more likely be about college education or the education system that we are taught. So I'm talking from grade school all the way up to college. I will talk about how, from what I've learned from real entrepreneurs, people who are successful and have made it. This is all information that I have learned that, and also what I've taught myself over the years about not going to college, and after high school that was it. And I think if I would have continued on with college, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I wouldn't be where I'm at mentally, physically, spiritually. I wouldn't even be talking to you in this video right now. So I will make a whole video about education at some point. But what he talks about here, is about, like I said, going to school. When you go to school and you just take the traditional route, you basically shut your brain off at that point, and you just go like cattle the same way as everybody else goes. And when you don't stop for a minute, think, okay, maybe I can try something different. Maybe I can veer off and be that part of the pack that tries something new. You'll always be the same as everybody else, which is why we all end up going and getting a job at the end of the day. So that's what he's talking about there. Most people get a job and stick to it because that's a traditional way of making a living. Others might be a solo entrepreneur, start a small business, and dare to create something new and live a life they're passionate about. So he's saying that some people will choose to go and get a job. Others, like myself, I've decided to veer away from a job and try something new. Try creating my own business, which, like I said in my past video, I'm working towards creating a business right now. And I will probably reveal it in a video coming soon. I might make a separate video, or I'm not sure. If any of you guys, like I said, first of all, thank you so much everybody for supporting me on my last video. It seems like it already got a lot of attention, so I think I will continue to create these videos, and I will probably put them on multiple platforms so many people can engage and I can build new ideas and create new things for you guys. So thank you so much everybody for your support. I love everybody, and like I said, it's good to see everybody again. I'm glad that I'm able to engage with everyone and bring something that I feel is important for everybody to know, and it's something good for everyone's life, so why can't we all help each other? Okay. All right, so moving on, he talks about most people eat meat and dairy and eggs because that's how they were brought up, and eating differently is weird and unthinkable. I love my ribs too much, quotation marks. But then you miss out on a whole world of healthy and delicious food and the opportunity to change the planet and help reduce one of the most cruel things that's ever happened, or that our society has ever done. So what he's talking about there is moving away from eating meats and becoming vegan. That's a whole other story, and Food Inc. will talk to you about that. If you go watch Food Inc., like I said, that'll talk to you about it. I'm not going to go too in depth with it, but basically, if that's something I've even thought about, something I might work towards. I still have a hard time with it too. I love meat. I'm a man. I enjoy eating meat. So at some point, I believe as well that I need to learn to be different, think different, even eat differently. Eat things that don't affect the planet. And I know everyone's like, oh, well, how am I the only, how just me? How am I going to make a change to the planet? Everybody else needs to do it. But you remember, it starts with you. If you don't do it, and you don't influence other people to do it, how will anybody do it? So I like how he talks about that here. So now he says most people drive a car because that's what everybody else does. And changing it is too difficult, and yet cars pollute and cost a lot and make us less healthy and make the streets less safe for our communities and take up our public spaces. We all know about cars. They're dangerous. They pollute like crazy. They're expensive. We all know they're expensive. Car payment, insurance, repairs, maintenance. The list goes on. You know, it's very expensive to upkeep a car. You know, probably the average person spends at least, you know, $5,000 or more just to keep their car running. You know, including car payments and insurance and all that. Maybe more, $10,000 a month or more, or $10,000 a year or more. You know, and think about what that money could save you, and what you could put that money towards if you learn to go car free. Now, you know, and with me with going car free, I think that'll probably be one of the last things that I will ever be able to drop, to be honest with you, because when I was a child, you know, I talked about my past video. If you guys haven't seen it, by the way, please go watch my last video first, it was my very first video I've ever put out. Please go watch it before watching this video, or if you're already continuing, go ahead and watch it, but please watch that one as well. Go on my page and check it out. You know, I talk about on there about when I was a child, that, you know, we were very poor, and with being very poor, you know, we almost never had a car. Most people that I know, that I've ever come across, they generally had a car throughout most of their lives. You know, I rarely had a car. I was usually carless, and we were always taking the bus, and I remember having to take the bus with groceries. Yeah, that was probably I don't know why, but to me it was extremely embarrassing. I mean, you know, when you have a car and you go get groceries from the store and you throw them in your trunk, it feels really nice, right? But have you ever thought that maybe you don't have a car and you're going to go to the grocery store and you're going to get a lot of bags of food, and you can't just always carry it home, which we did that sometimes too. We had a grocery store that was kind of close by, and we would carry them home. And I remember by the time I got home, man, my arms were dead. And this was me at you know, 10, 12 years old, trying to help my mom, because my mom was the only one aside from my sister, and my sister's you know, you got to be the man. You got to try to man up and carry as much as you can. So, you know, we didn't have a car, you know, and it was hard. It was very hard, and it was embarrassing a lot of times, you know. When I used to play sports, my friend, it was very embarrassing. My friends' parents of my team, you know, my teammates, their parents would come and pick me up for my games, all because I didn't have a car, you know. My mom had to find a way to get there or ride with them, and it was embarrassing, you know. So for me, you know, I've only recently started experiencing what it's like to have a car nearly all the time. Probably when I turned 16 or 17. So the 16 years before that, we very rarely ever had a car. So for me, it's something, you know, of a blessing to me. Although I understand that, you know, when you have a car, you're polluting and you're hurting the environment. So hopefully one day, you know, technology will boost up, and, you know, we'll all drive cars that don't affect the environment. But like I said, that's probably something that I will move off of as my last resort. Just because, you know, I'm grateful now that I'm able to have a car. So, you know, it's nice. So anyway, then he talks about learning to think differently. When you hear an idea that's different than what you're used to, pause. Instead of rejecting it outright, consider it. Is there some merit? What are the arguments? What is the evidence? So again, like I said before, in my other video, you know, stop and think for a minute. Instead of just rejecting something, maybe there's something that could change your life. You know, it's kind of like when I told you about my story about meeting Ed in the Lyft ride. He talks about you know, telling me, hey Jimmy, you don't want to work that job that you're talking about. I was telling him, hey, I wanted to do a border patrol. He was like, no, you don't want to do that. That's a job. And I remember thinking to myself, like, is this guy crazy? Who the hell tells you not to get a job? Maybe a homeless person would tell you that. But a businessman, like, why wouldn't the business? And if anything, he'd be like, "Hey, come and work for me," right? So, it was just really weird, and that's kind of what he's talking about here is stop for a minute and think about it instead of just rejecting it and being like, screw you, Ed. Why would you tell me not to get a job? I'm like, you know what? Just for telling me that, I'm gonna go apply today. Like, try to not be so. I don't know the word for it, but stop for a minute and think. Anytime you're told about an opportunity, or don't always just reject it. Think about what it could do for you. Don't think about what other people think. Don't think about what your mom told you to do. Do for you what's right. Do for you what's in your current situation. Do what's right. Okay? So, and then he says, let go of the emotions that come up. Like I said, the defensiveness. Like I said, don't be defensive right after. Don't reject it. Okay? When I mentioned the cruelty in meat and eggs and dairy and leather and wool, even the humanely raised animal products, for example, people become defensive and angry, which is true. They cover their eyes and ears so they can go on doing what feels comfortable. They lash out and attack, and yet if you set aside those emotions and look at the arguments, you might learn to think differently, and that applies to all ideas, not just veganism. When you are told that this is the way to do things, take a second look. Is this really the best way? Are there other possibilities? If no one has thought of them, can you? That's where you learn to think differently. Instead of rejecting things right away, hold on a minute, try to understand something beyond what your normal consciousness would have been, and try to see if maybe there's something where you can apply this to your life to not only be beneficial to you, but to other people. Okay? Just because an idea is different, don't just accept it. You don't always want to. If it's not right, don't do it. Someone tells you to jump off a bridge, you're not just going to jump off a bridge, right? So think about it. Look at the bulk of the evidence and learn to spot flaws in reasoning. For example, there's a school of people who believe that soy is bad for you. Saturated fat, animal fat is good for you. We should all drink raw milk, slather butter on everything. The Weston A. Price Foundation. This is different than mainstream science, but it's wrong. The bulk of the evidence is against what they believe, and their reasoning is wrong. Test out different ideas. Just because most people do it doesn't mean it's wrong. Just because most people don't do it doesn't mean it's wrong. Think about it, okay? They might all be wrong, but this might be better. No better way to find out than to test it. And if it's not a good idea, drop it and move on. That's why you need to think about it, evaluate it before shutting it down, and think if maybe this could be beneficial to you or not. If it's not, move on. But try not to reject things so quickly. Try to soak things in and think clearly, can this be beneficial to me, and how can it help me out in some sort of way, or help somebody, a family out of mine, or a family member, or somebody you might know? Could it help you? Okay? Learn to be proud of your ability to test things that people traditionally believe in, and not to worry so much if you stand out. In fact, learn to see standing out as good. Not just to stand out, but to forge new ground, to challenge new ideas, and to express your individual voice rather than blending in. So, again, he's trying to say, don't be afraid to stand out from the crowd. I'm not afraid to stand out from the crowd. I used to be. I used to be afraid of what people thought about me. I used to be afraid of what people say about me, or how they think I look, or how they think I act, or how I talk, or anything like that. And if you saw my last video, I talked about me being afraid to put my first video out there, which I put my first video out. And again, if you have not seen that, please go back and watch it. It's very informative, and I think it'll help you out. It'll help you understand this video even more. So if you guys enjoy this video or the last video, please like, share, and comment on them, okay? So again, if you watch another video, you see me talk about that I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of it anymore. I was afraid to put a video out there for all of you, and I contemplated on something like this for months and months and months and months, and I knew I knew that it would be beneficial to me and to other people. It would, like I said in my last video, it's something I wanted to do for all of you, to help other people, to give you some insight to a world that most people don't know about. Once you learn the things that I do, it'll make you see things a lot clearer. It's very, very hard to explain, but once you get to a heightened consciousness or awareness, which is where I'm at now, I'm not down here anymore, you will see it for yourself if you ever get to that point, and that's my job. My job is to get you at least here. You don't have to be all the way up here. You can get there, but I believe it's up to you to get yourself all the way up there, just like what I'm doing. For example, what Ed did for me is he got me just a little ways up. Okay, I was all the way at the bottom, and he brought me up just a little bit to see things differently, to realize how to make money, to realize that there's more than just going to a job. And to me, I don't think a lot of people see that. I didn't see that. I didn't see that when I was just working. When you get into a routine and you do the same thing all the time, you don't realize that you're not changing anything, and you're a part of everybody else, and that's okay. It's not always bad to be like everybody else if that's what you want. But again, these videos are for people that don't want to be the same. And I don't blame you if you don't want to be the same, because I want to be different. I don't want to be like everybody else. And I'm continuing to learn to be like everybody else. And the more I go on, the more I realize the benefit of being different from other people, and how you can't just follow everybody like cattle. And that reminds me that I'm gonna tell you guys a little story about a time where let me kind of give you some information real quick before I tell you a story. But as I told you in my last video, what I do currently, and I'm financially free. I make my own money on my own terms. I don't go to a job. My girlfriend Lizette does not go to a job. We make our own money. No, we don't rely on a job to do it for us, which I think is wonderful for anybody. If any of you are financially free, good for you. Okay, and so we make our own money, and we sell on eBay right now. Our main source of income is eBay. Okay, we sell on there. Anybody can do it, and I will probably create a video if any of you find interest in that and you want to learn about it. Just to make side income. If you have a job and you want to make money on the side, I can show you guys how to do it. It's actually not that difficult. It's very easy, a lot easier than people think it is. It's not so difficult. There is some work you're gonna have to put into it, but I can tell you that it's worth it. It's at least worth it. There's better opportunities out there, sure, but in the meantime, this is, like I said in my last video, my stepping stone to the next opportunity. And this allows me to have financial freedom to where I don't have to slave away at a job and spend 8 hours a day and be so burnt out and tired to where I can't do anything else after. It allows me to just put in just enough work to make more money than the average worker, and allows me way more time throughout my day to focus on what I want to do with my life, which works perfectly for me and my family. So anyway, here goes the story, since I told you that I do eBay, which I said in my last video, right? Here's the story. So one day, I had a order from a customer. They bought some Sony headphones. I don't know the model or whatever, but there were some green headphones. They bought them for about 120 bucks. I want to say I got them for maybe $5 or $6, and I bought them and I sold them for $120 on eBay. So the guy buys it, and he messages me, and he's like, "Hey, I actually live in Las Vegas, which is where I live. If you guys didn't know that, it's hot as hell out here right now, but I'm hanging in there." And so he's like, "Hey, I want to, can I actually come pick it up instead of you shipping it to me to save on time and maybe save you some shipping costs? Because I'd rather pick them up right now." And I was like, "Okay." I messaged him back through eBay, and I was like, "Hey, yeah, you can come and get them. When would you like to come and get them?" He's like, all right, I'll come by, later this evening or something like that. So I was like, okay. So he messages me and says, meet me at this time, and he's like, where are you, whereabout are you located? Can I meet you somewhere nearby your place or whatever? I was like, yeah. So there's a gas station here nearby my house, and I was like, all right, here's the address, meet me there. And I gave him my phone number and everything too, so he called me and we met up. And when I met him, I sold him the headphones. He loved them. He was very happy, by the way. Very nice guy. And, he was, we started chatting up, and I learned the more that I started to talk to him that he thought very similar to me. He didn't own his own business. I think what he did is he used to work at the Sunset Hotel, or Sunset Casino, if you guys ever heard of that. It's over in Henderson, Nevada, which is really close by to Las Vegas. So he worked over there at Sunset, and I don't think he was doing that anymore. I'm not quite sure what he was doing at the time, but we just started chatting it up and everything, and then somehow we started talking about business, and I thought it was so funny that I ran into another guy that knew what I knew. So it felt good to talk to him because there's not very many people. I'm one of few people who can talk about these things. Most people talk about sports or video games, or I love video games, don't get me wrong, but most people talk about small talk stuff, but not the big talk, if you know what I mean. So we start talking about it, and I thought he brought up something very interesting, how I talk about how everybody's cattle, that we all move the same direction. He actually says that everybody, he ran into some people that he felt like they were so programmed. And I thought that was an interesting word to use, because I thought about my own life, and I thought about when I went to high school, middle school. They all teach us to be the same. And when you think of the word program, you generally associate it with electronics or computers, right? That you program something. You program a car to make a certain action or things like that, right? Or program a computer that when you click something, it opens something up, or, So he mentioned how he met some people that just all they thought about was work. All they thought about was making money by going somewhere, selling your time to a corporation, clocking in, making your money, clocking out. And then, he just like, I guess this is kind of how I feel sometimes when I talk to people that all they do is just work, and I'm not going to lie. Because I've learned so much, because my heightened awareness and my consciousness is so much higher than the average person now when it comes to work or making money, it almost kind of makes you think like, man, like some people really are so programmed. Their minds are just only thought to think one thing. When you program something, you're telling it you can only do this and nothing else. That's how people think. So that's the story of when I met that guy. He was a great dude. He actually, I talked to him a little bit about what I did with eBay, and eventually one day he called me again, which I thought was amazing. He called me out of nowhere, and he was like, hey, Jimmy, I want to learn more about this whole eBay thing. I want to learn to be more financially free. Now, I'm not saying that eBay is the highest you'll ever be. It's not the highest I'll ever be. It's, like I said, I think of it as stepping stones, right? We all, I almost want to reference something that Ed Ingles told me. He drew something on a piece of paper. He drew some stair steps, okay, that start from the bottom and go to the top. He drew some stair steps. He drew a guy up here, and along that path, part of the way up, he drew where I was at. And then he said, Jimmy, you used to be down here. Now you're here. Where you want to be is up here. It's okay to be here, but every now and then, stop, turn around, and look back down. But you only want to look sometimes, because when you look back down, you can see how far you've come. And when I do that, it's amazing to me. I don't do it all the time, but every now and then I stop and I do look back behind me, because I think it's healthy for me to see, to you know, give myself some more motivation to, I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but to be happy about where I've come, to give myself more motivation to move further up. Now you want to get all the way to the top. That's where we all want to get, but it's one step at a time. You got to take one step, then the next step. You can look up. You can look all the way up to the top. It's okay, but just remember, the easiest thing to do is to take that first step, and that's why I talk about the stepping stones. Because if you guys watch my last video, and again, if you're at this point of the video, go check out my other video too. Go watch that so you can see what I'm talking about. Where I'm at or what I'm talking about when I'm speaking about the stepping stones is each stone gets you a little bit further, just like the staircase thing I'm talking about. And in order to get to the top, you got to do each step. So when I started in the very beginning, like I told you guys in my other video, I started out selling things locally. I don't do that as much anymore. I do occasionally here and there just to make extra money. Sure, why not? Don't ever say no to money. But I don't rely on it now as I used to. So now I'm able to make money. I'm surprised my phone hasn't gone off right now. It's usually going off like crazy, but it seems like because it's summer, it's slowing down a little bit. 4th of July just happened. People are not spending money as much and business fluctuates. But I don't have to make money. Like, I could literally be sitting here right now and my phone will go off and somebody will throw money into my bank account. That's how it works. And that's what I've learned, as opposed to, just selling stuff locally. I had to push things to get them sold. Now, when I just sell them locally, of course, but now I can just grab an item, put it up for sale online, and wait. Sometimes you wait longer, sometimes you wait less. But in my experience, it's been no more than 2 to 3 months max, and most things are gone. So if you can think about that, if you can learn to just continuously keep doing it, putting up more things, that's how you make money. So when you get multiple sales a day, you make more money. So that's the beauty of being able to sell online. You use your own phone to make you money, as opposed to using your, when you sell locally, you're having to force things out. I got to be on my phone all the time. Okay, come buy this, people, come buy this, people. But now that I sell online, I can throw something up for sale and just wait. I can make money sitting here talking to you guys right now, which is amazing. So that's why I'm saying, that's where I'm going with when I talk about these stepping stones. This is my next stepping stone. And then now I'm going to be starting another business that will allow me to make more earned income. It'll be a second form of making money, a second additional income. And if any of you guys, don't know about that, the most successful people have more than at least 5 or 6 or up to 7 different businesses that they run. That's how they end up making millions a year. You got to learn to scale and create more business. So anyway, enough about that. I kind of wanted to go back a little bit more about the willingness to think differently. And I wanted to, if any of you guys are kind of confused about what that is, or what are some things that I do to be different than your average person, okay? And I just kind of wrote down 5 things. There's probably tons of things more, but I just wanted to give you guys some examples before I wrap up this video. So one of the first things that I wanted to talk about is working from home, learning to become financially independent, which is what I was just talking about. So again, I don't go to a job. I don't wake up in the morning and head out and tell my son and Liz goodbye. I'll be back at 6 o'clock. No, I wake up whenever the hell I want to. I work whenever I want to. And when I say financially independent, it means being able to make money when you want to, okay? And that's the big key here. That's the big key, and that's why you have to learn to think differently than other people. You have to think different in order to be different, okay? If I would have never thought about this, I would have been working at the same job, and being a nobody, just being regular old Jimmy. So I decided I wanted to be different, okay? So again, you know, you want to try to learn to become financially free, or have freedom. You know, I can come and go as I please. I can do whatever I want. I can stop my work and leave. Nobody tells me what to do. I don't have a boss that breathes down my neck, and you have no idea the amount of stress that relieves off your body, not having a boss breathing down your neck. I do whatever the hell I want, whenever I want. Nobody tells me what to do. And it's amazing. So start to think about that, and if that's the life that you want, comment below. Talk about it. Share your ideas with us. You know, don't be silent. You know, like my girlfriend Liz always says, closed mouths don't get fed. So open your mouth, you know, say something. Let us know how you're feeling. You know, if there's things that you guys want me to talk about in my videos, you know, I'd be more than happy to discuss them with you guys. So speak up, let us know. One of the other things that I think makes me different from the average person is, you know, we've all heard on the news of these mass shootings, people getting shot in schools, and people going to their workplace because they're angry at everybody, again, because they hate their life. They hate working at their job, and it makes them so angry that they go and grab a gun and start shooting their coworkers, killing people. And we all know, we've all heard about it. And something that I think makes me different. I'm not saying that nobody else does this, right? There's obviously other people that do it, depending on the state and regulations and things like that. But I'm one of few people, you know, that carry a gun. I carry a gun with me all the time, everywhere I go. You know, I'm actually working towards getting my concealed permit. It'll be in any day. I already completed the training for concealed carry. I actually took Liz there. We went out and did it for a day, and we loved it. It took 8 hours. It was tiring as hell, but we enjoyed it, and it was something new to learn about. So we learned a lot while we were there about guns. So I'm actually becoming more and more of a gun enthusiast. I've always been interested in guns. I just never really had the courage to touch them. My brother-in-law actually, Mark Conception, my brother-in-law, is actually who taught me about guns. So thank you to Mark, you know, for giving me the knowledge about guns and teaching me about gun safety. So, you know, it opened my mind a lot about, oh, there was my phone. Oh, speaking of that, so you guys have proof. All right, so here's a perfect example right now. You heard the cha-ching. That was eBay, okay? And I don't know if you guys can see right here. Here's a perfect example of what learning to think differently is. I don't know if you can really see that. It's really hard to see. But I sold a folding knife, kind of like a flip knife, pocket knife like this, right? I sold one of these on eBay for $159.99. Sitting on my ass and talking to you guys. Okay? So that, you know, maybe that was meant to be. You know, I just literally got done talking to you guys about that, saying that, you know, I hadn't sold anything, so I did. So there you go. I told you, you can learn to do this. And putting that knife up for sale probably took me 5 minutes. So when you guys go to your job and you work 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day or more, are you making that amount of money in 5 minutes? Now, obviously, I'm not going to make $159.99. There's fees, there's taxes. I'll probably make, you know, 90 or $100 net, maybe a little bit more, depending, you know, but average, about half or 60%. But again, the value of the time you put in for something, for what you receive. Like I told you about the McDonald's thing, when you go to McDonald's and you flip hamburgers, would you rather get the 80 cents for every hamburger that McDonald's is making off of each one that you make? Or would you rather make the $8 that they give you per hour? I'd rather have the 80 cents for the freaking hamburger, okay? So anyway, we're going off topic. So going back to things that I think that I do differently that make me different than the average person again. So I carry a firearm. This right here is a Glock 19. It's a double stack 9mm. It holds 15 rounds plus one in the chamber. It's a great gun. This was not my starter gun, but you know, I love this gun. They're very expensive. There's a lot of guns you can get for really cheap, but I carry this everywhere I go. Anytime I leave the house, this is with me. Even when I'm at home, a lot of times, because I leave the house and come and go so much when I'm busy, I'm always carrying this thing with me. And I don't carry it to intimidate anybody. Right now I open carry. In the state of Nevada, you can actually have your gun holstered on your hip. As long as people can see that it is a firearm, it's legal to carry. I'm working to get my concealed permit, means put it in your shirt, you know, or not your shirt obviously, but your pants, and hide it from the public. That's the concealed permit I was talking about, okay? So I carry this thing everywhere I go, and that's what makes me different. Now, I'm not saying that you got to do it to be different, but I do it because of several reasons. First reason is because of all this crap going on in this world, I don't want to be a victim, okay? And I don't want my family to be a victim, and I want to be able to have a fighting chance if something happens. You know, there was something recent that happened here in Vegas. There was a Ross where some guy started shooting in there, and there was a recording of a family laying on the floor, hiding under clothing, and the father didn't have a firearm. And I thought to myself, man, if some guy's over here popping off shots and trying to kill people or killing people, I don't want to have to hide under the damn clothes with my kid and cower away in my fear. And then, you know, something happens to us, and then for the rest of my life, I regret it if I survive. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be a victim. So, you know, you can't always just... Everybody else is like, no, guns are scary. They're not. They're really not scary. The only reason they're scary to you is the exact same reason why you're scared of everything else, because you don't know. I was scared about guns before I learned, thanks again to Mark. He taught me about guns, and now I'm not afraid anymore. So, you know, it's something to think about. You know, I'm not saying to go and do it. If you want to, great. You know, go join the NRA, do whatever. You know, utilize your Second Amendment right to protect yourself and your family. That's what I'm trying to say, okay? The next thing that I wanted to talk about that I do differently is, for example, when I go to a store, because I've learned about making money, about buying something and selling something for more, like I talked about in my other video. When I go to a store, for example, a lot of times, and I do this to Liz all the time, we go to the store, I find something, and I'm like, dang, you know what? I think I could sell that for more, even if it's for $5, $10 more. You know, we were just at Walmart earlier today, and the first thing we did when we walked in, I said, hey, we're over here by the clearance section. Let's go check it out. So we go to the clearance section, and we start looking for stuff there, and immediately I went on my phone. How much does this go for online? How much does that go for online? What can, you know, how much could I maybe sell this for locally? You know, my mind starts working. And that's the difference between somebody who's an entrepreneur and somebody who goes to work. When you go to work, you only clock in for 8 hours a day. Your mind only clocks in for 8 hours a day. An entrepreneur, we never stop. We're 24/7. We're thinking the morning, day, and night. Everywhere we go, we're always looking for an opportunity. We're always keeping our minds peeled for that next big thing. And I think that's what's important for people to understand when you're trying to understand the willingness to think different. You got to learn to think differently, to be different. You got to be a different person. And all of these things that I'm naming make me a different person to continue on my path of understanding to think different. If you can't learn to think different, you'll always be the same person. So that's why I do these things, to be different, because I'm not afraid of what other people think. I carry my gun around the time, and people are like, what the hell, man? Like, why this guy got his gun with him? And I'm like, well, Second Amendment. It's my right, and I can do whatever the hell I want. You can't tell me what to do. As long as it's legal, you can't tell me what to do. And then they see my son and my girlfriend with me, and they're like, well, he's got to defend his family, right? So learn to think different, you know. And like I said, when I go to the store, those are the things that I look for, as opposed to the average person who goes to a store and just buys things. I actually look for ways of where I can buy things to save money on what I purchased. If I can find something and sell it, that covers what I paid for in the damn store. So in the end, you're not paying anything. You're using other people's money to buy the things that you want. And other people's money is probably another thing I'll create in another video. If you guys want to remind me, I will begin to talk about using other people's money to purchase things. Those are things that I'm starting to slowly learn as I progress as an entrepreneur. I'm learning more and more about using other people's money to purchase things, which is possible. Okay. Sorry guys, that was a motorcycle going by. All right. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about was giving things up. Sacrifice. Sacrifice is very important if you want to get started. And honestly, I think before learning how to sell anything and buy something with your own money, go look for stuff around your house to sell. That'll get it started for you. That's how we started. I wish I had pictures. I got rid of all of them because my Google Drive and everything was filling up, so I had to delete pictures that weren't useful anymore. But I had a bunch of pictures of all the things that I got started with, and I really regret deleting them. But we sold all kinds of stuff. Like I said in my last video, we sold shoes, we sold, all kinds of things. And they got us started, with revenue to buy more things and continue to move up. So learning to get rid of things and not to hold on to things that mean so much to you, sometimes you got to realize that thing is hurting you more than it's helping you. So I got rid of things like my car. When I first met when I first met Lizette, Liz, my girlfriend, I had a badass car, I'm not gonna lie. If you guys could see, I had a really nice Challenger. I had a 2013 Dodge Challenger. I did all kinds of stuff to it. Put a lot of money into it, and I love that car. And I basically, got rid of it shortly after we got together and had our child, because I realized that car was not doing any good for me. It was just a money taking machine. It was stealing all my money, and it wasn't good for a family. Obviously, we all know that. So I had another car, my Nissan Versa, that I was using for Lyft and Uber. So I decided to get rid of that other car. So as much as I wanted to keep it, it's the second car in my life. And you guys saw my Camaro I had before. I had a red Camaro. It was really nice. So that's the second car in my life that I had to get rid of, that I didn't want to get rid of. But I told myself that if I can get rid of it and hold on for a little while, maybe it'll come back, So that's what I told myself, and that's what I've gone by. So I feel like that's a key thing that you need to do. You got to be willing to sacrifice things. If you're not willing to sacrifice nearly anything, you won't get anywhere in life. And there's going to be some things that are going to be really hard for you to sacrifice, that are hurting you, that you think are helping you, but they're really not. And things that you do, or things that you hold on to that you like to show off to everybody else, that has nothing to do with benefiting you, it's benefiting other people, or you're trying to be cool with other people, or whatever it is, and it's just not doing anything for you. Those are the things you got to drop, okay? The last thing that I wanted to talk about was the ability to see an opportunity instead of purchasing something. So it's kind of similar to what I talked about with the whole clearance thing, about when we were at Walmart and looking for things to buy and sell. It's kind of similar. But what I'm trying to say is to look for an opportunity. So when you go places, or you start to walk around in stores, or look for a way, start to train your mind to see things as opportunity and not something you want to buy for yourself. So, what I've done over the last few years is I don't buy myself really anything other than necessities, things that I need to carry on and survive. But as far as investments for myself to make myself happy, I haven't done a whole lot. And I know that it's right to make yourself happy every now and then, which I do. I'm not going to say I don't. We just went on a nice vacation. We went to San Diego for nearly a week. That was good enough for me. From my background and where I come from, I don't require a whole lot to be happy, if that makes sense. I didn't have a lot as a kid, so I'm kind of used to it in a way. So I guess it kind of helps me out, it benefits me. But there is more that I want with my life, and there are things that I want to do to be happy. But for in the meantime, I'm okay with what I get, is what I say. I'm appreciative of the things that I have. I've actually, because of the event of losing my mom, I realized that was the worst thing that will ever happen to your life, is losing somebody. So I realized that there's nothing else really that can hurt me other than that. So a lot of things just, I'm not as sensitive to those kind of things as I used to be. So it's easier for me to drop those kinds of things, but for a lot of people it's not. So something you might want to think about. Learn to look for opportunity instead of just outright buying something. How can you make money off of something as opposed to something taking money from your wallet? There's a lot of things that are out, a lot of people that are out to take your money, but nobody's out to give you money. That's why when a lot of people on Facebook, for example, they're like, hey, come and check this out. Click on this link or whatever, we'll give you $500. Who wants money to their bank account now? You see that, and immediately everyone's like, scam, scam, scam. Because everybody knows that you don't just get free money. Not saying you never do. You can get lucky with some things, but most of the time you don't get anything for free. We all know that. So again, it's just something to think about. This video is already extremely long, like the last one was. So I know it was already an hour and 6 minutes. But there was a lot to cover in this video again, and I think a lot of the videos are going to be very long, and it's really easy for me to kind of just get into this and start yakking with you guys, because I'm so passionate about wanting to change this, not only for myself, but for other people, because I think in this day and age, there's too many people, not going to quite use the word greed or greedy, but there's too many people out to help themselves and not willing to give information, as opposed to people who pretend to give information, but in reality they're out to monetize off of you, which means to make money off of you. And I'm not here to make money off anybody. If someday these videos go viral and a lot of people catch interest in them, and it opens up more people's minds, and it teaches more people to understand the willingness to think differently, and why I believe it is so important to start with that, because so many people have jobs that they don't want to stay at, which I understand. We all don't want to be at a job, and we all wish we could have more. We all wake up every day and we're like, man, I don't want to go. I just wish I could call in, but you're like, wait, I called in last week, so I can't call in again. So a lot of us feel that way, and I feel like there's not enough people trying to truly help, which is why I want to be that person. I want to be that person that can help other people, that can be that middleman. Like I talked to you guys about in my first video about, nobody's willing to, or there's people who try to, say that they're helping. I'm not going to say all of them are legit. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But a lot of them aren't. They're really just out to monetize off you. Like the people I said, sign up for my program or my course, and it'll teach you to do. A lot of people don't know about all that stuff. So yeah, a lot of people don't know, and they fall into the trap. And really, the only person that's benefiting from it is the person who is making the money off of you. So I want to be that person who is not all the way up here. I don't want to be that if I do become an amazing entrepreneur one day and I make tons of money and become very famous, great. But I want to be that person who is, at least right now, not so far up on the chart, like I said in my last video, where I don't intimidate people too much to the point where they don't do it. I'm still relatively a lot like you. I'm not much different yet. I'm not completely reformed, if that's the correct term. I'm not reformed completely yet to the point where I only understand one thing and I don't care about anything else. So I do understand where you're at right now. I do understand that if you don't enjoy what you do, you hate your job, maybe you make good money doing what you're doing, but you still don't like what you do, and you hate you have to be there, and you wish you didn't have to be there to make money. And I think it requires somebody like me to, if all you've ever known was work, if all you've ever known was one type of way to make money, I think it requires somebody who's very similar to what you are to help you just get started, just get a little push. That's the person that I want to be. I just want to be that person that just gives you a little push to move on to something bigger. Okay, because like I said, a lot of us don't enjoy what we do. So I want to be that influence to other people, and I hope that it inspires enough people. I hope that what I say inspires enough people to try to do something different. I'm not saying you need to go be the next Jeff Bezos. I'm not trying to say you need to, be the owner, Steve Jobs, Donald Trump. I'm not trying to say you need to be the top of the tippity top. But there are other ways to make money, and there are other things that are a lot easier to make money. Less work, use your brain, less hands-on work to make money. I like to think of it as, man, at least I know these hands are less likely to get arthritis than your average worker, because I'm not using my hands as much to work, I'm using my brain. Now you can say, oh, your brain's probably going to rot or whatever. Oh, it will eventually when I get old. But like they say, think smarter. Don't work hard. Don't work hard. Work smart, right? So I think this about wraps up this video. If you guys have any suggestions of anything that you want me to talk about in a further video, like I said, I think my next video is going to be talking about education, school education, college education. I'm gonna kind of talk about that some more for you guys, to kind of give you a little bit more insight about why I think education is corrupt, and why I think school education needs to change, and give you guys some information about it that you probably never heard of before. So I think it'll be really interesting to see what people think about what I say about that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope, again, it was informative to you. I hope it kind of helped you open your mind a little bit more about the willingness to think different. Again, I will link the video the blog to Leo Babauta, who wrote about the willingness to think different, which inspired me to want to speak about this some more with you guys, and help people understand and try to get people to think different. So again, I want to promote people to, in order to think different, you need to be different. So think different and be different. Because if you always just think the same as everybody else, you'll be the same as everybody else. And if you don't try to be different than anybody else, you'll always be the same as everybody else. Nothing will ever change for you, and it will always be the same, just like how I said earlier. The great Einstein said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different outcome. Sorry if I didn't explain that too much earlier, but if you do the same thing over and over and expect a different outcome, you're insane, because nothing will ever change. You have to do something different. So think about that. I hope, like I said, I hope this video was informative. If you guys have any suggestions, or if there's anything that, if any of you guys watch this and there's something that you want to hear more about, or if you have a category of something about a video, that if you really enjoy these videos and you see something that you'd like me to talk about more, please, comment and tell me what you want to hear. I will give you the most information that I have from what I've learned. Like I said, I'm not an expert yet. I don't know everything. I'm learning as I go, but I think it's only fair to share with other people, to give you guys the advice and the information that you need to only be where I'm at least, at least have some form of financial freedom. Because living like this for the rest of your life, you're gonna wake up one day and you're gonna be 60 years old, or laying in your deathbed, and you're gonna be thinking, man, I wish I accomplished more. I wish I did more for the world. I wish I helped other people like Jimmy did, or I wish I I just wish I did something other than just go to work. So think about it. I'll be back in the next couple days. I'll put out another video for you guys, and hopefully it will, hopefully these videos will provide, more information for you to think different. So remember, learn to think different. Learn to have the willingness to think different. Remember to, challenge mainstream ideas, like Leo Babauta said. Challenge mainstream ideas. Don't just do the same thing that everybody else tells you to do. Try something different. And if you try something different, maybe something will change in your life. So, like I said, my next video will be about college education, the education system in general. So, again, I'll link the video, or I'll link the blog for you guys. I keep saying video, but it's a blog. I'll link it for you so you guys can check it out yourself. And if you like this video, please comment, please share it. Please share the video. I think sharing is the most important, because when you guys share it to all your other friends, everybody finds out about this information. And I think it's only fair for the whole world to know about this. So please share the video, if anything. If you don't want to comment, that's fine, but at least share the video. If you want to just be a lurker, that I like to call, when I used to stream on Twitch, a lot of people were what we called lurkers, and lurkers are people who don't talk, but they watch, and that's fine. You can be that lurker. So share the video, please. Like it if you like it, love it, throw a heart out there, whatever you want. If you guys have any information or any suggestions for me or anything like that, just please comment below. And thank you to everybody who supports me on this so far. It was good to kind of reach out to some of my family members as well. I like to see some of you guys commenting on my last video and supporting me on this, and any of my friends or anything like that too. So thank you guys, and I hope to continue to put more videos out there for everybody to learn from. So, excuse me. So anyway, hope you guys all enjoy your weekend. I'll put out a new video again very soon, and till next time, just remember to continue to think different and be different. All right, guys, take care, and thank you for watching. Good night.